Hey guys, this is Rafi Ozick, and welcome to your fourth HTML tutorial, HTML5 tutorial for beginners. In this tutorial, I want to talk a little bit about how to create links inside of HTML and maybe get into creating lists, and we'll see what we have time for in this tutorial. So let's start out with how to create a link inside of HTML and HTML5. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a tag, and it's called the href tag. And what that stands for is A stands for anchor, and then H stands for hypertext, and ref stands for reference. So this is the anchor hypertext reference. And what this is going to do, it's going to anchor this text as a reference to another website or to another page on the internet. So we're going to do equals. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're just going to create a website. I'm going to write https://www.rafaelcommunications.com. And I'm going to close this. And then once we close that tag, inside the opening part of the anchor and the closing part of the taper is the text that's going to appear. And inside of here, I'm going to write my company website. And that's a really simple way for creating a link inside of HTML. So if we take a look now, you see we have this My Company website. And if you notice, it actually shows up automatically kind of just right on the right of the image because it didn't have any separator to make it show up below. So if we place this whole thing inside of a p tag, and we say, we could put the p tag either outside of it or inside of it. So we're going to put it inside of it. And this is a paragraph, and a paragraph will automatically create a space in between the element above it. So let's take a look now, and you see My Company website. And if I click on this, it's going to take me to rafaelcommunications.com, which is a pretty awesome website for web development and a lot of other cool stuff. So going back here, and so this is basically going back to our page. We have here how to create a link. And let's just get this preview going again. And it's loading, and it's loading. We see we have our link. But what if we want to create a link around an image? So what we can do is we can go up here, and we can create an anchor reference link. So href, A-H-R-E-F equals, and let's just say, you know, for this case, we're going to say duckduckgo.com. And we're going to say, we're going to close it. And if we take this closing tag here, and we put it over here, now we've created a link inside of this image. So let's take a look now in our browser. Now you see this is now a clickable image, so we could click on this and we cannot get duckduckgo.com. So that's because I didn't create a complete URL. So we need to actually do http://www.duckduckgo.com, and it'll work now. And it's loading, and if we click on it now, it'll go duckduckgo.com. So that's actually pretty important. When you are trying to refer to an outside source, you need to add that http:// for the website. So just to go over it again, and because this is a very important thing that's just going to come up over and over again, you're going to probably be creating a ton of links inside of HTML, is you have your anchor href, which stands for hypertext reference, equals the URL wherever it is you want to go, whether it's google.com or yahoo.com or what have you. You're going to then close it, and then here is going to be whatever you want to be clickable. So it could be text, it could be an image source, you know, image, or what have you. It could be anything inside of here. So that's how you create an anchor tag, or an anchor hypertext reference, a link. Essentially, that's how you create a link. So let's go into some other cool things we can do in HTML. We talked about creating links. So we can also create lists. And lists are pretty cool, and there's some default ways of making a bunch of different lists inside of HTML. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create something called an unordered list. And an unordered list is going to be bullet points. So if we create this UL tag, and that stands for unordered list, inside of that we're going to have our list. So we're going to have, this is the first item, and LI stands for list. So we have the unordered list, and inside of that we have our list, and unordered list is telling our list to be a bullet point. So let's say this is our first item, and we're going to say this is the second item, and then we could say this is the third item. And if we open that, and let's load it, we see we have this is a paragraph and we have our list. This is the first item, this is the second item, and this is the third item, and it has bullet points. Now there's also something called an ordered list. So if we change U to O, now it's an ordered list, and this will now be ordered by numbers. So it'll go 1, 2, 3. So it should say, if it's working correctly, 1, this is the first item, 2, this is the second item, and 3, this is the third item. So let's take a look. That's pretty cool. Now we can also do some things pretty cool and complicated inside of this. Is we could actually nest inside of this unordered lists and ordered lists inside of each other. So if we said ordered list, this is the first item, and now we could have inside of this an unordered list, and we could have a bunch of bullet points here. We could say bullet point 1, bullet point 2, make this list, bullet point 3. And if we take a look now, you see we have our first item, and then it has a bunch of bullet lists nested inside of that. This is actually a really important concept, not just inside of HTML, but inside of all of programming, which is the concept of nesting. And what nesting is putting elements or putting tags or putting whatever you have, any kind of code, inside of other code. So you could put this unordered element inside of this larger ordered element, and it shows pretty effectively. If you don't understand 100% how this works right now, or you have some trouble wrapping your head around it, don't worry, you will get it, and it's not super complicated. It's just something you kind of have to get used to, and I highly suggest you just play around with this. So hopefully you have your brackets browser, your brackets ID open now. So play around with different things, switch up the ordered list with the unordered list, start putting paragraphs inside, start putting header 2s and header 3s and header 1s, and start just playing around with your HTML, seeing how it works and getting a feeling for it. And so you kind of get a really good feeling of the fundamental of how HTML works. And I think we have a really good understanding now of the basics of HTML. In the next video, we're going to go into detail into styling your HTML and making even better looking websites.